Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This is your boy, the coach from the WWE. I would like to welcome you to the very first wrestling podcast in the world to take you on a weekly deep dive into classic matches along with legends of the squared circle. Enjoy the discussion. Enjoy the back and forth. There's so much to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the payoff.
Brock Lesnar. This is Tom Healy, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Jeffrey Ryan. Jeff, we're covering your boy Cena. How pumped are you?
This is our first time. I'm excited. I know I don't hope I'm not in a minority on this one, but yes, I am a Cena mark. I am a fan, and so I'm excited for this one. We'll get there, but this should be good.
So many of you have heard the "Let's Go Cena, Cena sucks" chant, and then obviously the "Let's Go Cena." It's like little kids. It sounds like 8-year-old boys, and then the "Cena sucks" is like always like the men in the crowd, but Jeff is firmly on the side of "Let's Go Cena." He's probably the oldest one at most wrestling shows that'll chant that.
My friend Brittany, she can attest to the fact that when we went to a wrestling show one time, it was a SmackDown, and I think it was the dark match, and Cena came out and he threw his hat in the crowd, and it missed me by about 2 people, and so she can back up the fact that I just barely missed it, and so I don't know what I would have done with it. I probably would have given it to the kid next to me, but either way, it would have been fun. But yes, that was the closest I've ever come to John Cena in my life.
So I got a Cena shirt as a gag gift, okay? And you know, I wear large, right? But what's funny about it is you put the shirt on, and I don't know which version, and maybe it's like all of the versions. There was like, I think it was the Hustle, Loyalty, Respect one. It has print from your neck down to your belly button. There's just so much print on the shirt, so you feel like you're wearing like a piece of plastic, not a t-shirt.
It's just so heavy. Yeah, I got you.
Oh, yeah. It's like you're wearing it's like you're wearing a rain jacket on the front of you because it's just all print. I'm almost positive that's the one it is.
That wouldn't surprise me, yeah.
Occasionally I wear it as when we're watching a pay-per-view, but man, it's a tough shirt to even wear as a joke.
Say, that's you. I wear it, but that's me. So that's how it is, though. So
I have for costume party. I have dressed up as Randy Savage. Maybe I'll buzz my head, do the jean shorts, and rock that shirt. I seen it'd be an easy one to dress up as for me
for a costume party, yeah, or just random day nowadays that we're stuck at home. But
all right. My last tangent or my last side note here about John Cena is one time I got this really really bad haircut. Right, like I get it trimmed on the sides, and they like completely shaved it off the sides but left it all on top. So of course at the time I had 3 roommates. I walk in, I mean it wasn't 10 seconds and it was like do like they're just pounding me about how I look like John Cena. It was the worst haircut I've ever gotten in my life.
Sometimes that's what you got to get. So hey, at least they knew to hit the trumpets. That's the important thing.
Yeah, but who am I to talk? The guy's made probably what, $50 million as a professional wrestler.
Easy. Yeah. And that doesn't count his what was it? Was it the Marine money? Yeah. No, he wasn't in the Marines. Oh, it's his Transformer money. Like seriously. So guy's doing just fine. So of course, as always, everybody out there, you know the deal. Subscribe to the show. Give us 5 stars wherever you're listening. Spread the word about the show at Payoff Pod. We're on all that social media. We're easy to find. And we've got those 3 steps every single week: the build, the payoff, the aftermath. We just talk about it all. We'll give you some reviews. We'll give you our score, all that good stuff. And so Tom, we kind of talked about it a little bit, but do you have any kind of specific reasons why you wanted to cover this match?
Well, before that, I haven't given you a fun fact in a while, but I just looked up. I just looked up John Cena's net worth, $55 million, and I said 50, so I was close.
Yeah, absolutely. You were right there, and so that makes sense. So,
but you know what? You know what? No matter how successful he's been, I question any man that lets Nikki Bella walk.
Hey, he did. Like he's got those house rules or whatever. I watched, Total Divas and Total Bellas, and so yeah, the John Cena rules, man. Who knows?
If 10% of those rules and the way he acted on that show are true, then the guy's a fucking psychopath.
Oh, I'm sure he is. Yeah, but you know what? It made it work. That one didn't work out. He's happy happily with somebody now. They both are. And so, yeah, hey, happily ever after eventually one day. So that's okay.
So you asked me the important question of why I wanted to cover this, which we always talk about. It's always fun to give our reasons. So for me, the reason I wanted to cover this one is this kicks off Brock Lesnar's return, which I mean, in and of itself is pretty awesome. Dude, it's crazy to think this is 8 years ago this guy came back and he's been on top ever since. Okay. Like it's an 8-year run that we're in the middle of, which is just crazy. But this kicks it all off. I was at the WrestleMania that the Raw after was where Lesnar came back. So I was already home for it. But I think that was the last time I was like, all right, I got to start sticking around for these Raws. Because when he came out in Miami, dude, the place went nuts. Then he hit Cena with the
huge,
F5, and then we're on to a great build. But I remember, and I have not gone back and watched this match. We're going to watch it together. But I remember this being a awesome wrestling match. So that's why I'm excited to cover it. What about you?
Yeah, I think primarily because we haven't covered a Cena match, and it was time to cover a Cena match. And so, one of the only guys on the planet that can pull off a pair of jean shorts. I mean, that's all you see, but he pulls it off, and it's good stuff. So, I like I said, I've just always been a Cena fan. I think you're right. I cared less about Brock in this one, just because, I think we've got our different people we're rooting for here. And Cena, I think this is when he had kind of finally settled into he was going to let play to however the crowd was acting, and the Cena sucks and let's go Cena, that stuff. At this point he was playing into it and enjoying it, and I think he knew his role, which was good. So
this is a big match too, because you'll get into it, but your boy was on a little bit of a losing streak. But
he was. Yep.
Let's get right into the build.
Oh, it's time for the build.
So here we are, our favorite arena, right? The Allstate Arena. Apparently, it's like half the great matches in wrestling.
Chicago, man. It's always Chicago.
Building.
Yep.
I'll tell you, man. It's the spot to be if you're a mark like us. April 29th, 2012. This is the pay-per-view right after WrestleMania. It's Extreme Rules at the time. We have 15,000 inside in Rosemont, Illinois, just outside of Chicago. Dude, let's run through this card, man. We kick off with Randy Orton and Kane in a Falls Count Anywhere match. They went 17 minutes. Then we have Brodus Clay defeating Dolph Ziggler. Man, Dolph's going to end up being in the business for about 15 years. And
forever. Yep.
A lot of just forgettable stuff. I don't know, man. I swear to you, if he said, he came in with Nick Nemeth, his real name, and just was himself, I got to think he would have had a better career. I think that name, and I won't even call it a gimmick because I don't even know what it is, but that name just really hampered him, I think. And then the goofball stuff that they booked him with. But man, Cody Rhodes defeating the Big Show for the IC title. If you remember, Big Show won the IC title the month before at WrestleMania, kind of his WrestleMania moment, which was a pretty good match. But Cody would regain it. God, talk about another guy that wasn't used right.
Stardust, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
We'll have to add a Stardust match to our list because I don't think we have one on the list right now. So we will look into that.
If there is one, then talk about coming off of WrestleMania. We get Sheamus defeating Daniel Bryan in a 2 out of 3 falls match to retain the title, 23 minutes. Do you remember what happened the month before WrestleMania?
All 16 seconds of it. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it went that long?
I think it wasn't quite 30 seconds. I don't think. Yeah, but it was under that time. Yeah.
So it was weird because WrestleMania, sometimes you get the hardcore fans. I didn't realize how over Daniel Bryan was with the yes chants, and he came out and the place went nuts. And I guess I just hadn't been watching SmackDown. I didn't realize how over he was. The place goes nuts, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And then boom, he gets hit with the bro kick, and Sheamus wins. It was shocking. I know, the internet hated it, but it was what it was. I don't know. I mean, it was like, if you're only going to give them a 6-minute match, maybe you just squash them like that and then come back and do this 2 out of 3 falls match. Ryback wins the squash over 2 guys. Ryback could have been something, but They, build him up as a monster. Then he loses to CM Punk. I was just weird how they booked him, man. And he's hurt, and obviously a lot of hard feelings. CM Punk defeating Chris Jericho in a Chicago street fight in 25 minutes, a rematch from WrestleMania. They were having that really good program. You forget how long CM Punk was champion,
Mm-hmm.
Then we had our traditional Divas Buffer match, Layla defeating Nikki Bella. They did a little twin magic there where Brie actually was the one that took the pin. 2 minutes, 45 seconds, my God. But the reason we're here, Jeff, Cena and Lesnar, Extreme Rules match, it was the only actual Extreme Rules match on the show, although they did some variations of it. Interestingly enough, man, you're putting this as the main event. We'll get more into this, but what I loved about this build was they gave it this big match feel. And it was like, it's bigger than the title. It's bigger than anything. This is the match. It was how they kicked off the show, airing a vignette. They made it the main event. They put it above the title match. For a post-WrestleMania show, this was a really big match, and they really built behind it. So I remember this build being fantastic. I've gone back this week and watched some of this, but walk us through what they did because it was fantastic.
So we'll start off. It was April 2nd. It was actually the night after WrestleMania. It would have been 27. Yeah, that's what that is. 27. You had the big match between John Cena and The Rock. Cena's in the ring cutting a promo, asking The Rock to come out. But instead of The Rock coming out so that he can congratulate him, Brock Lesnar's music comes out, plays for a little bit, and then Brock comes out. Said it was his first appearance in over 8 years to that point. And of course, Lesnar got, slow walk to the ring. No Heyman at this point, just Lesnar. Slow walks to the ring, gets in to shake Cena's hand. They exchange a little bit of words, and then puts an F5 onto Cena, which takes him out. Of course, too, Tom, you and I were talking, like, I did go back and rewatch this part of it. Of course, it did have and it's not a new thing, but the classic bad camera angle, or like they were showing the fans at this point, and so you saw when the camera cuts back, Brock already has Cena up on his shoulders and is about to give him the F5. And so, thank you, Kevin Dunn. That has not changed at least since 2012. It's been something we've been dealing with. So, it's just one of those things. And so,
dude, and the place goes nuts.
Yes. Yeah.
They
just
went
absolutely
insane.
Crazy.
The pop was awesome. We knew he was coming back, so it was just more of, they were already chanting for him, but dude, the place went batshit crazy. And you forget, I forgot about it. We'll talk about it during this match too. It's really weird without Heyman next to him.
Right. Yeah, it really is. It's out to not have that mouthpiece. And so, and it's interesting you say that because I was kind of doing some research, and Bleacher Report actually had a write-up of this Raw. And it was interesting. They said, assuming that Lesnar is only going to appear once a month on television, he could still be a viable character who could help WWE. People pop when they see Brock destroy someone. They've done it since he was a rookie. No one wants to see Brock give a 20-minute promo about something. They want to see him maul someone, and WWE can provide that. That was 2012, after he had just returned. So I think it's definitely an interesting take, and kind of what they thought. And it was right in a lot of ways too. I don't want to watch Brock talk, which Brock doesn't talk, and that's the whole point. So
it was interesting seeing him talk in the build to this, and it was weird without Lesnar. It really was interesting.
Yeah. And so the next night, though, this is when John Laurinaitis was the general manager. He revealed he brought Lesnar back because he wanted to give some legitimacy to the WWE, wanted him to be the new face of the WWE. And so what you had, though, of course, Cena, it really just a couple weeks here where the two of them had a little bit of a back and forth, some pull aparts, kind of things like that happening. Eventually, though, we did get to a contract signing on this one between the two of them. It was kind of weird because there was actually Cena actually had to fight another extreme match. It was kind of weird, that piece of it, but you had the contract signing, and I thought it was funny because I went back kind of looking at the notes on this show, and Brock said that if he's going to be the face of the company, there's four things that he needed. And I thought the four things were kind of funny. He wants John Laurinaitis to run all major ideas through him, Brock. Brock wants to use Vince McMahon's private jet to and from all events, which wouldn't be surprised if that's already happening. But he said Brock doesn't like people, especially stupid people, which I thought that was funny. Number 3 is that Brock wants to show up on Raw only when he wants to. He won't be a puppet, which that's actually has played out in 2020, so that's still happening. And then 4, he said that he does not ever want to be fined. Brock said John Laurinaitis won't ever fine him, but he will be paying him more money. And he said that until those demands were met, those 4 things, that the Extreme Rules match wasn't going to happen. And so, of course, and then he said instead of calling it Monday Night Raw, it was going to be Monday Night Raw starring Brock Lesnar, which I think I like the play on that. I actually thought that was pretty cool, kind of like Monday Night Owens or things like that. And I think that it's just kind of good stuff. So of course, with any
I'll give you a quick side note. Do you remember how they used to cover for Brock all the time, like why he wasn't there? It was like 1 month, like one time he snapped Triple H's arm, one time he snapped HBK's arm, one time he attacked somebody else, right? Like
it was Camurlox, yeah.
He would hurt someone, then he gets suspended. But they had all these different reasons. This initially was why he wasn't on the show. It was like, I negotiated a contract with Johnny Ace, but it was just interesting how they did that, where they would, they kept making excuses for why he wasn't on the show. Now we're just 8 years later, just conditioned of, he just kind of shows up whenever the hell he wants.
It doesn't really matter. Yeah.
Yeah.
So of course, with any contract signing, we know what's going to happen at a contract signing. The table was tipped over as it must be, it's the 11th commandment that the table has to be flipped or used in some way. And of course, sign the contract. So we did get this match. It was less than a month really that this build was happening, but a lot of action. It was every week. There was things happening. There was other matches. I did skip over the classic Lord Tensai defeating John Cena on the way to this one. I don't want to forget about that.
Oh my God.
Let's not, so I can't forget that. So,
he's coming off his loss to The Rock. Then he loses to, the thing is about Tensai's, you're like, wait a second, Prince Albert's dressed like a Asian guy. What the hell's going on here? So it wasn't even like it was like some big heel monster you could actually take seriously.
Right, exactly. So we get the contract signing, and then we're ready to get into this match. And so, Tom, any other kind of final thoughts on the build?
No, man. A lot of good stuff here. Go back and watch some of it. At least watch the vignette at the beginning of this show and then before this match. Both are excellent, and the build made a lot of sense. It really worked well. So, man, I'm ready to get into this. We are at the 2 hour and 29 minute mark on the WWE Network. Again, 2 hours and 29. Cena's about to throw his shirt, and we're about to get in the match. So with that, it's time for the payoff.
Oh, it's time for the payoff.
All right, here we are. John Cena, Brock Lesnar. Man, what I love about this presentation, Jeff, is it feels like a big fight. There were just some nuances where, they waited a while to play each guy's music. Everything was just slow, but in a good way. I mean, look, everybody's standing, like, ton of noise. They're excited for this. They just let it breathe a little bit and come out. And it just has that big fight feel. This felt to me like boxing UFC, not like a pro wrestling match. And that's what I always love so much about Lesnar matches. And the thing too, is I remember at the time thinking, what are we going to get from Lesnar? Because remember, the big thing going into this was this guy was the UFC champion. How do you present him doing fake matches? And we're already getting the answer to it. Stiff as hell. He just elbowed the shit out of Cena when he had him down. Massive clothesline, assuming it's a blade job. But I mean, Cena's bleeding now on the top of his head. They're putting the gloves on and taking a look at him. I mean, he just pounded the shit out of him. Cena pushing away the ref. But it was just, I mean, this is not wrestling. Like, they presented it a lot different. But I remember at the time thinking, how are they going to pull this thing off?
Well, and this is, and Cena's already bleeding pretty good, dripping onto Brock and doing that.
Big time.
And, Cena's just struggling, and yep, Charles Robinson pulling him off a little bit here just to kind of check on Cena. And those are the same type of elbows too that had Randy Orton absolutely just destroyed, and just dripping blood nonstop. And so, little almost like a little bit of not a stoppage, but trying to help Cena kind of wipe away some of the blood. And this does, I'm gonna hesitantly say Brock. He definitely looks bigger now than he does even back then, which I get it. It's been 8 years, but he almost he's definitely not little, but he definitely looks more jacked today than he does back in this match. I have an odd desire for Jimmy John's too. I don't know about you, but that's just me. But
well, that was another thing that's so odd is he comes out for the first time in his wrestling tights and he's wearing his UFC sponsorship.
Well, and that was me and my buddies would always joke around, depending on whether or not there's many years where Brian showing the elbows again right now. Oh, yeah, there was the one where he just clipped him. And yeah, where we would bet whether or not Brock was going to squash or not and how long the match would take. And then we'd have to Venmo each other money for a Jimmy John sandwich. And so Brock definitely pulling the punches there, but hitting Cena as well. And so there was a lot of blood on that towel too, that the or what is it? The medic ringside. And so Cena really just getting his
wailing away at him.
And all the fans just, nobody really, like, everyone has sat down at this point, but you Cena just getting his ass kicked.
Well, and I told you that this was a lot different because, again, it was like this big fight feel that they did with him, and you didn't know how Lesnar was going to show up. This did a 25% year-over-year growth in terms of pay-per-view buys. So, there was interest in this, right? I mean, Lesnar, he earned his paycheck there, and then it would drop 12.1% the following year. So there was a spike for this match, no question.
So Cena extremely bloody, like trying to get back in the ring now. Not quite Crimson Mask level, but definitely a lot of blood kind of running down. And it feel like it really slows the match down a little bit when you've got the medic constantly kind of in there, kind of checking on him, kind of see what happens. At this point, like, we know what the outcome's going to be is shortly here. We still got a little bit of time in this match, but it really it's almost confusing to a degree because, like, Brock is so dominant right now, and then now Cena, can't get the attitude adjustment going for it though. Number one, going to Suplex City. Here we go. No release Germans. And there's number two. And so this is before any signs in the crowd as well, but definitely Brock just being dominant. Well, I think I go back to that kind of Bleacher Report, that I read and kind of their write up of that review. Like, what are your thoughts on, just how Brock has been booked over the years and just
incredible,
really being other than Goldberg beating him, like, and there's the ref bump. So,
dude, I think the way Lesnar's been booked over these past 8 years has been almost flawless.
It's weird too, thinking that it has been that long that he's been around. And
how many years was Steve Austin on top?
Right,
like 4. Lesnar's only been in main events for 8 straight years. Oh, plus the 2 years he was there prior, he was the main event immediately.
Wasn't it just like 2 months or something ago? It was a Brock's first non-pay-per-view match in like years or something like that. It wasn't that long
was it
ago.
The Fox debut?
No, could have at some point. I forget. So Brock wiping
when he beat Kofi?
Cena's blood off.
Maybe when he beat Kofi, that was on TV. That was probably.
I thought that was a paper. Yeah, that was on TV. Yeah. And so, there was just a few. I forget exactly what it was. So, Cena just selling the fact that he's getting his ass kicked right now. And that was, I wouldn't see that nowadays, but Brock licking Cena's blood off of his hand, which, that's just a little gross, but that's all right. So Cena going for a chain, which is, again, don't forget, this is an Extreme Rules match. It doesn't seem like it. You've got the blood, which kind of adds that degree to it, but it's still not really like, it's not all that extreme, but there is a kind of metal chain wrapped around one of the corner posts that Cena was grabbing for, but couldn't get it. So, interesting. So it looks like locking that Kimura lock, but Cena blocking it. So,
Well, how do you think Cena's or Lesnar's been booked in these 8 years? I think it's almost flawless. Yeah, the Ambrose match sucked at WrestleMania. Yeah, maybe he squashed some small guys, but dude, overall, I give it like a 9 out of 10 on the way they've booked him. I think it's been fantastic.
I think that, yeah, I agree with you. I like, there have been times where I got sick of him. Like, I just didn't want him to be a part of it anymore. I think like they've got all these different titles, so they're able to keep the belt on him longer and it's not a bigger deal. Again, I don't think it's weird because we have so many conversations of certain wrestlers that like don't need a belt. Like, Braun was one of them, but they have absolutely just killed the character of Braun Strowman.
Killed it.
So, I don't even want to see him anymore just with how bad he is, or, like how they treat him. Because he should have just been a monster. I think Brock's one too, that you could have had him come in, squash people a lot. He's one too. I know you talk all the time about, Undertaker kind of laying the belt down and being done. I think that, like, you could have a same type situation with Brock where he just lays the belt down and then he just kind of beats up people, that he doesn't need a title shot. He doesn't need the belt, like, because he is Brock Lesnar. He's going to, win matches and squash like he does. And, 15, 20 German suplexes, and that's fine. So short answer is, yeah, I'm fine with how they booked him. There's a few times that I wish that he had gone away, but what do you do with him too?
But and I put me on the side. I don't mind him having the title and not being on the show that often. They have enough titles. So the idea of, hey, we have a world champion that isn't always on. I mean, Hogan didn't wrestle every week on TV either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we forget that, and I think that's one of those where I'm with you in that one, that we don't need to see him every week. I do think that there needs to be a little bit more emphasis on at least the story that they're building around to him. Like, luckily he does have Heyman. Like, Heyman can go out and cut promos for weeks before we get to Brock, and I'm okay with that. And so, and I think that connection's different. So Brock now, he has wrapped Cena's legs in this chain link, and kind of taking out Cena a little bit here. And Brock covered in a little bit of Cena's blood too, which is a little terrifying to see. Brock's one of those wrestlers too that me and the guys would always joke about the fact that, like, he's one that, like, I absolutely think that if you see him like in a dark alley, like, Brock would absolutely just destroy you. Like, and like the quote unquote, we say fake wrestling. It's not really, the stage, whatever you want to call it. But Brock's one that Brock legitimately scares the hell out of me. Like, Shayna Baszler legitimately scares the hell out of me. Like, just in what they can do. And so I think that, and imagine like trying to book something like that, especially for this match. Yeah, I can understand where it's tough. Like, you gotta book a true UFC fighter. That's why I think like the Tyson Fury match was just crazy and stupid and insane. Anyone that
thinks Lesnar's, overrated, or they're sick of his run and all that stuff. Let me ask you this. Who else could have done what he's done over these past 8 years? Who could you put in his spot that could have been on all these shows, been interesting, been booked this way? There is no one else.
Yeah, the referee's still dead on the outside of the ring. He took quite the bump, and so
so explain to me why you do a ref bump in an Extreme Rules match. Why does it even matter? Did they just want this to feel more like a fight and not have a referee around?
Yeah, you really don't need to. I mean, it's such an early bump too, for him to go out. I mean, he's literally laying there now for the better part of 6-7 minutes, not doing anything, which is just ridiculous. Brock now walking over to him to, I say, check on him, not really picking him up by the belt loops. That's why Brock scares me, just the pure power of him, like, just crazy. Yeah, I think, and this is one too. Like, and we've talked about it in the past. Like, we say "quote unquote" extreme rule. That's the pay per view. Like you said earlier, there wasn't a lot of extreme matches even on the show. There was the table match, and like this, we had blood, but it's not, and then the chain, a little like the the Thugonomics chain making its appearance. But it really like, it, why does Brock need to come back to an Extreme Rules match? No.
No,
You could have done this any other way, but the card dictated you had to do.
Oh, I disagree. I think the way they did this was perfect. I'm glad they made it into a fight. I love it. And Cena just selling.
Cena trying to get Lesnar up, and then Lesnar reversing and getting him up. And again with the ref bump out of position. Like, how many times can Charles Rollins say, and no pinfall because Brock took him out trying to give him the F5. Of course, the crowd counting it for him. Another ref sliding in, though. I believe that's John Cone. Jeff Cone. Twitter will let me know. I don't want to say the wrong thing here. Whose son Nicholas. Oh, now Brock taking out a referee. Of course.
You realize these fans have not sat down at all.
Yeah, they really haven't. And I like that.
How many matches have you seen like that?
The sign that, then they were playing the legitimacy and making WWE legitimate. I appreciate the fan. I think that could be WWE guy who would always sit in front rows of pay-per-views holding the legitimacy has returned sign. So Brock picking up the bottom part of the steps. There's now multiple referees that have come down to the ring, sliding in the bottom of the steps into the middle of the ring.
Well, yeah, I was just saying this is not the best Lesnar physique we've ever seen.
He struggled with those steps a little bit. I mean, you and I, maybe get him up a little bit easier than him, but you never know. He's, he can't always be in great shape. So
look at Lesnar. I mean, this is
Lesnar. So standing on the top of the steps, like almost like a trophy, as a statue, and Cena giving the "you can't see me" though, trying to come back at him. I think you raised a good point too. Like, get the Kimura locked in on him on the top of the steps. Is it a full lock? It's hard to see, but yeah. And so Cena has not gotten a lot of offense in on this one, especially
barely any.
He had something to prove after this one too, in The Rock and Cena fight from really less than a month ago, and so it kind of how they built this up and the different angles and things like that, and so but Brock I think had more to prove after coming back and kind of doing what he's done. It's just interesting, especially seeing at this point too. And I do appreciate you seeing the background there. Someone from a previous match definitely broke the Spanish announce table because they're not sitting in front of a table. But anyways, that I think that it's one you wouldn't think right now that Brock would lose. And so Cena powering Brock and slamming him down onto the top of the steps, but too hurt to go over the pin. The crowd cheering for him though, which it's starting to give it up a little bit for him. Cena trying to find the kind of power on this one to go after him. Yeah. I think too, in Cena, he kind of comes back for, Manias as we've seen and kind of doing that stuff. You think Cena's definitely done as a full timer here, but Cena's on the top rope at this point, selling the arm and missed a leg drop. That just looked weird. With Brock kind of hanging off the steps, Cena went for a leg drop and just totally missed on it, intentionally, but missed it. How much longer do you think Brock has left is the question I was getting at before that.
Man, I mean, you don't see any signs of slowing down. He does whatever the hell he wants. So, if he said, "Hey, I'm done. I never want to do this again," it wouldn't shock me. If he did it another 5 years, that wouldn't shock me either. That's the part that's interesting is you just never know with this guy.
Yeah, and I think even
sure as hell doesn't need the money.
No, and he's definitely not out of shape. And you figure too, even at this point, if he were to try and UFC, how long before he gets back into the UFC, if he wanted to do that?
Well, and the reason that I think there's still a few good years left in him is because of his relationship with Paul Heyman. Heyman's booking Raw, and he's like, "Look, what do you want to do? Let's work together." And I think that friendship carries a lot of weight. Oh, this was awesome. I remember this.
And Brock.
Did you see that bump?
Brock going crazy.
He just overjumped.
And running
insane.
the ropes and tries to take Cena out on the outside and then flips over. I'm going to guess he legitimately tweaked his knee a little bit there.
I mean, it was crazy. Look at him. I mean, he's just a freak.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He's and the fans going apeshit for him though because he's still out there doing it. So
he's laughing. He's still up first. Cena wrapping his hand with the chain again.
I think too, it was interesting, like the Drew build recently, and just how they, Brock, and like I think you and I. Well, you weren't watching it live, I don't think, but the Rumble, like everyone kind of losing their mind of like, oh God, what if Brock squashes everyone? But luckily he didn't do that. I think once we realized what they were doing, it was just a matter of like, okay, who is going to be the one to take Brock out? He kind of undersold that jump at that point, but Cena with the chain links wrapped around his fist just popped Brock in the face as he went for him again.
By the way, I love the way they booked that Rumble with Lesnar. I thought that was just fantastic.
I think especially, too, since they've started introducing NXT superstars into it, I think it's only gotten better. The last few Rumbles have been very good. I think starting when Shinsuke won it a couple years ago.
The rosters are just so loaded, especially with the NXT guys. It's not like the olden days where it's like, oh, it's Bushwhacker, Luke. Could he be going on to WrestleMania?
Don't put down the Bushwhackers, man. I had both action figures. Like,
really,
I enjoyed the Bushwhackers because they were freaking crazy, and so just weird as hell, which for whatever reason I liked. And so
Lesnar busted wide open. Holy hell!
And so Cena again gets the AA, the attitude adjustment 1, 2, 3, and that's the pin. And so. Interesting. I have thoughts on the finish and the offense, but Cena picking up the 1, 2, 3 here over Brock. So interesting for sure.
I was shocked he won. I was absolutely shocked. I mean, I thought for sure Lesnar. I was like, wow, they actually. I mean, I'm sure that's what they said is, look, we're going to give you a massive push, but you come back and beat him later on. And for right now, show that you are one of the boys and take the loss. So yeah, man, really, really good stuff. Let's jump into the aftermath.
Oh, it's time for the aftermath.
All right. So aftermath. What'd you think of this one?
Yeah,
Initial thoughts.
It was interesting. I say going back and rewatching it, I think I had, we do. So people know we do a lot of research. We don't always try and watch the match under these circumstances. Like, especially if we have a guest, we go ahead and watch it sometimes, and most times. But I think this is what I didn't watch. I don't think I realized like just how little offense John Cena actually got in. Because I think, on paper, sure, Brock lost, and we're going to talk about some of the reviews and how some of this kind of played out a little bit. But I would say going back, while the ending was like, it seemed quick, one punch from the chain and then he's okay. And then he gets the 1, 2, 3. I think that it still does somewhat keep Brock strong, which is good after all this.
It absolutely does. I mean, there's no question. It keeps him strong. You didn't think, oh, this Lesnar. I think it was great booking because it gets Cena strong after his loss. It gives another matchup for Lesnar later on, which obviously they'd go back and have more matches. Lesnar dominated, and so it was very well booked. I thought it was great.
Yeah, absolutely. So for both of these guys, kind of what happened, in the aftermath of all this. So what you had was actually right after this. This is where we talked a little bit about Triple H getting involved. And refusing really to deal with Brock because of his contract demands and how he was just kind of being Brock. And so the two actually had a storyline feud, of course, where this is where you were referencing before, where he broke Triple H's arm using the Kimura lock. What it actually led to was Lesnar beating Triple H at SummerSlam, and then the two of them actually having a match at WrestleMania 29, where Triple H defeated Lesnar when Triple H's career was on the line in a no holds barred match. And so him and Triple H had a lot of feuds. And so it's interesting because this is when Triple H was not wrestling full time. And so the two of them kind of going at it for the better part of a year, really, just kind of an interesting way to kind of take that road and kind of go down there. And so Cena, on the other hand, had a couple different things here where he actually ended up feuding with the Big Show, dealing with John Laurinaitis a little bit, and Laurinaitis not being happy that Cena beat his hand-picked next superstar in Brock Lesnar, and so he wasn't happy about it. So had some matches against the Big Show. Cena, who I don't know who that is. Cena went on to win the Money in the Bank ladder match after that, which he had obviously a shot. It was actually tried cashing in, if you remember, on CM Punk with his briefcase. He actually won the match because of DQ with the Big Show, but he has the distinction of being the first person to cash in the Money in the Bank contract but not win the title. And so the three of them really, Cena, Punk, and Big Show, continued to feud into that summer, where Punk beat both Cena and Big Show to retain the title. So
good.
Right. And
yeah,
so,
Punk was champion all year until he had to lay down for The Rock instead of getting his WrestleMania main event.
And we've heard that story many a time. Yeah.
Because we had to get to twice in a lifetime.
So yeah, having that and kind of getting to see that. And so that was definitely interesting, kind of watching that play out and kind of have that. But yeah, interesting, like both of them, just the storylines they had. So Tom, you got any other thoughts on the aftermath?
No, man. I really want to hear how this one was reviewed.
So I'll start with, again, we started kind of trying to add these to the shows, but you've had a little bit more often, but the PWI, and where they rank these guys. In 2012, this year, the match, Cena actually came in number 3. And so where he ranked, so this match was kind of in the middle of that year. And so, but he finished that year at number 3. Brock actually finished unlisted for another 4 years, which I find just kind of odd. And so, because not that he wasn't wrestling, but for whatever reason, he just wasn't like, that was that. He just was getting, just wasn't listed there. So a couple different write-ups. So I'll start with the Pro Wrestling Torch. And so just one of the writers here, this wasn't Wade on this point, said he praised the event's strong matches and performances and the nice pace with downs to follow up the big ups that was on the overall event. He said he described the Cena-Lesnar main event as super intense, saying that Lesnar offered physicality not seen in years, which yeah, I would agree with that actually. And so, but we'll get there. And so, Tom, I'll start with, because I know you're gonna have thoughts on this one after. And Tom's favorite favorite write-ups, the Wrestling Observer newsletter. I'll start with Dave. Actually, gave this one 4.5 stars.
Meltzer did.
Meltzer gave it 4.5 stars. But Brian Alvarez, in one of the write-ups here, in his first match back for the WWE in over 8 years, Brock Lesnar lost clean to John Cena in the main event of Sunday's Extreme Rules pay-per-view. It was arguably one of the 5 dumbest finishes in the history of U.S. pro wrestling.
Wait, hold on. Alvarez said this?
Yes.
Oh, that's good. He had time to write a review for this match in between writing a book about WCW that was completely fake and has been discredited by everyone that was actually there.
Lesnar versus Triple H at SummerSlam, or whatever Lesnar's next match is, will be very big. He's not going to be just another guy. He'll always be Brock Lesnar, and people will always be intrigued to see him wrestle. But will he be a massive game changer, the type who guarantees an extra 100,000 buys of SummerSlam or an extra 300,000 buys for WrestleMania? No way. That takes a special something, and WWE took that special something away from him on Sunday.
What?
Thoughts, buddy? I'll let you go.
I mean, that's the only thing worse than Meltzer is hearing what his protege has to say. Oh my God! I mean, Jeff, has anyone ever lost a UFC fight and still been a star?
Right.
Has anyone ever lost a boxing match and still been a star?
Yeah.
Did Tom Brady go undefeated for 20 years now? I mean, guys lose. It humanizes them. I think you pay more to see him come back and have to after a loss than if he just destroyed Cena. Where do you go from there?
Right.
So, man, I thought it was the right booking. I thought the right guy won. I mean, maybe you could say, hey, I would have preferred that Lesnar won, and you saw how long he could go on. Fine. But to say that it was terrible, no way, man. I thought that this was fantastic. I don't know how you can just bash it, but I also don't know how you can write 300 pages about WCW and make up lies and be discredited. So what do I know?
I thought when I was reading that take, I was like, "Ooh, Tom's going to have some thoughts," which I enjoy. I think it's interesting.
It's just an idiotic take.
Well, and I think it's one of those where when do you do it otherwise? Because I actually think even though like it seemed a little like it still kept him strong, like I said, because of like how he took the punch,
super strong.
And getting into that, and this is I'm gonna breeze this right into my score actually, and so I've got a thought, and then I'll just kind of get right into it. And so I think that this is one where he actually came back looking even stronger because he then feuded with Triple H. And so he had a very long feud with Triple H. So they were able to, after this, he really had a year-long plus build with another top superstar in the company. And so I don't think you can overlook that fact in regards to like how it played out and kind of, what we got after that fact. Cena, and that's the thing, like Cena, it could have gone either way and he would have been fine because while like Brock came out of it looking strong, Cena came out of it really not looking strong, and really in essence, like if he didn't use that chain to beat him, he wouldn't have beat him. And so I think calling this like, saying that he lost all momentum at this point, I think it goes to like, when do you do this otherwise? And I think like the best example of that is like when Asuka and her losing streak and Charlotte beat her on the first time that they kind of, they had a match together, at least on that WWE main roster. When do you do it otherwise? Because how do you tell that story? And yeah, sure, like Vince obviously wasn't riding as high on her as some of the other people may have been just because of how she lost that first one out of the gate. And I don't think this was because, like you said it, I think it was because Vince or whoever, like they knew what they were going to do with Brock a year after this. So they could have, in essence, you look back in the hindsight's 2020 here, like you give Cena the win to kind of the pick me up and to kind of go on and really just to not have a, kind of an oddball feud after this point. Brock bounced back just fine. And so,
they didn't know what they had with Brock at the time either. I mean, they didn't know, hey, we're going to get this guy for 10 years, right? Right? And I'm not saying they would have booked it any bit different, but they're probably going match to match, year to year with this guy. And it's like, all right, let's have him lose to Cena. Let's, eventually put him over Triple H and get a year program out of there. And that might be it for the guy. You just don't know. And then they probably at the time also didn't know, hey, can we even make this guy champion? But, you had the brand split, you had multiple world titles, you had the ability to do some things that, again, I think it's hard to say that, categorically one person should have won it. And what was the quote? This will go down as the worst booking in North American pro wrestling history. Be more dramatic, man. Come on.
It was the dumbest finish in U.S. pro wrestling. One of the top 5. Yeah.
I'll give you 50 dumber finishes in the past 5 years. Like, come on.
Right. Yeah. So I think with all that kind of looking, Tom and I giving our score, we kind of look at everything, kind of, all the different pieces and the kind of, even we have the ability of hindsight to see what's happened since and kind of, judge based on that. I'm actually going to give this one, I struggled a little bit with it. But I think that able to see where he went after this, I'm going to give it an 8. It makes sense. I didn't like or I did like that it's, especially going back and watching it now, Brock actually came out stronger than I like realized it from just like kind of reading things. And so I'm going to rank you for that because, and obviously it worked out. I don't think you could say it wasn't necessarily a dumb finish because like it played out fine. Like it played out as it should have, with Cena needing to quote unquote use the, cheat, if you will, and use the chain in order to beat him. So, and that was what it took. And versus, 15 curb stomps or, whatever the hell, that not taking somebody out. So I'll say an 8. Yeah.
Dude, you're reading my mind, man. I had this thing at an 8 as well.
Yeah.
I love the build. Go back and watch it. It's probably better than you think it would be. Lesnar talking was excellent. It made sense why he came back. It wasn't too hokey. Cena needed the win. It worked really, really well. The match, I loved it. We've seen a lot of these Lesnar matches since. So if you go back and watch it, you're not going to be like, oh my God, look at Lesnar. He's beating the shit out of him. But keep in mind, this was the first one. So at the time, his style, what he was doing, you're like, holy shit, he is pounding him. So I'm at least an 8, but I could even go higher. I thought this was excellent. So really enjoyed it. It's a fun one to go back and watch.
I'm sure Twitter will shit on us a little one for that, but that's okay. So, hey, it's our opinion. You guys let us know if you disagree with us. Like, you can disagree with us. Just let us know what you're thinking too. And so where you'd rank it. And so, kind of getting to that point. So, as always, this is good stuff. You got any other final thoughts on this one, bud?
Nope. It's a good one. Go back and watch it. It's worth it. Loved it. And really, really good.
Yeah. So, of course, our two competitors here, pretty simple on the social media here. It's just at John Cena and then at Brock Lesnar. And so, feel free to kind of check them out. And, of course, like still out there, still having matches, doing what they do. And so, yeah, this was a fun one, though. I enjoyed. We will definitely add some more Cena matches because I'm sure we have some Cena stands out there like myself that want to kind of catch a little bit more. So, of course, as we always say at the beginning of the show, you know the deal. Just give us a 5 stars, subscribe, spread the word. And then at PAYOFF Pod, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, we're always out there doing our thing. So, Tom, anything to send us home on this one? You got a good one? You gave us a fun fact today. You got a fun way to send us home and, share some insight with the fans?
No, nothing fun here. I do want to tell you though, I mean, we've been at this for how long now? Almost a year.
God, the first week of July will be a year for us. Yep.
Yeah. And I just want to tell you, I appreciate all your hustle.
There it is. Yep.
And
that's some true loyalty and respect to the program, my friend.
You took it from me. I was going to say loyalty, and I was going to say respect.
Yep, we got there.
All right. Well, that's it from Jeff and Tom, your reigning, defending podcast champions of the world. Thank you, as always, for joining us on The Payoff.